Have you ever loved someone who made you feel less for being who you are? She did. Her name was Alia, a woman whose heart overflowed with love, patience, and hope, yet every single day seemed heavier than the one before. In the dim, warm glow of her bedroom lamp, she sat before her mirror, brushing her hair slowly, deliberately, as if trying to untangle not just the knots in her strands, but the tangled thoughts in her mind. The reflection staring back at her was familiar, yet alien. The face she once admired now seemed small, fragile, unsure. Each movement, each breath, reminded her of the laughter that had once filled this room, echoing off the walls like a gentle symphony. That laughter now felt distant, almost mocking, haunting the quiet night. Her eyes, deep and heavy with exhaustion, searched the glass for validation, for some sign that she was enough. But all they saw was the invisible weight of his words, the cold emptiness of a gaze that had once adored her but now seemed to measure her worth against a standard she could never meet. She thought of the small moments, his casual remarks about her looks, the way he would sometimes sigh when she entered the room, the unspoken judgment in his eyes. A single tear slid slowly down her cheek, catching the soft lamp light for a fleeting moment, before disappearing into her collarbone, carrying with it months of silent hurt and unspoken frustration. She loved him with all her heart, the kind of love that forgives, that hopes, that waits. But with every passing day, that love was tested, twisted by words that chipped away at her self-esteem. He made her question her worth, her beauty, her presence, and even the color of her skin, things she had always embraced with pride. And yet, here she was, alone in the quiet night, wrestling with a heart that still wanted to love, even as it began to understand the bitter truth, that some people don't see the light in you, and their blindness can make you doubt even your own glow. The morning sun streamed softly through the kitchen window, casting golden streaks across the floor, but the warmth in the room could not reach Alia's heart. She moved carefully, setting plates on the table, arranging cups of tea, trying to act as though everything was normal, as though the weight in her chest wasn't growing heavier with every passing second. Arslan lounged lazily on the couch, scrolling through his phone, completely absorbed in a world that didn't include her feelings. Then it happened, a phrase so casually cruel it carved through her chest like a knife. "If only your skin was lighter, our pictures would look so much better," he said, his voice indifferent, almost amused, as though he didn't realize the wound he had just inflicted. Alia's hands froze over the teacup. Her heart thumped loudly, painfully. She forced a calm smile, keeping her voice soft, steady, fragile. "Maybe, but I like my color," she whispered, trying to hold her composure. Every movement she made, pouring the tea, arranging the plates, felt mechanical, as though she were a shadow of herself. The words sank deep, embedding themselves like thorns in her chest. The sunlight, once so warm and hopeful, now seemed harsh and mocking. Every loving gesture she had shown him, every thoughtful act, every word of encouragement, invisible, dismissed, unworthy. The kitchen, once a place of comfort and conversation, now felt cold, suffocating, as if the walls themselves were judging her. She wanted to speak, to fight, to demand that he see her for who she truly was: strong, beautiful, deserving of love, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, she swallowed the pain, keeping her voice calm, her smile in place, while inside her heart quietly cracked a little more. In that moment, she understood the truth. Love should not feel like a measurement of your worth, and yet, every word he spoke told her she was never enough, simply for being herself. As the sun dipped below the horizon, spilling golden and amber light across the city, Alia sat on the window seat, a warm mug clutched between her trembling hands. The faint hum of distant traffic and children's laughter outside seemed to mock the silence that had taken over her home. Her heart felt heavy, weighed down by months of subtle cruelties and unspoken judgments. She had spent countless evenings replaying every word, every look, trying to find a way to make him see her, to make him love her as she was. Finally, her voice broke through the quiet, barely above a whisper. "If I were fair, would you love me more?" The words hung in the room like fragile glass, fragile yet sharp. Arslan, lounging lazily on the couch, didn't even lift his gaze from his phone. A small, cruel smirk spread across his face as he replied, "Maybe. Beauty pleases the eyes, not the heart." Alia's chest tightened as if someone had wrapped her in iron chains. The casualness, the ease with which he dismissed her feelings, stung worse than any yell or fight could have. She wanted to demand an answer, to insist that love should never be conditional, that her worth was not determined by the color of her skin. But the words caught in her throat. Instead, she turned away, her eyes drifting to the fading light outside, letting the world beyond the window offer a tiny sliver of comfort. In that moment, the truth settled in her chest like a stone. She had been shrinking herself for someone who would never see her true light. The love she had poured so freely, the patience, the hope, the countless small gestures, they were invisible to him. And yet, even in the sting of his rejection, a quiet ember began to glow inside her. Perhaps, she thought, some love is meant not to keep you small, but to make you realize you deserve to stand tall on your own. As the moonlight softened across her room, Alia closed her eyes, letting herself drift into a memory from her childhood. She saw herself as a little girl, sitting on the warm grass beside her mother, the sun streaming down on them both, turning everything golden. Her mother's hands, gentle and strong, guided her as she laughed freely, the sound spilling into the air like wind chimes. In that moment, there was no judgment, no doubt, no harsh words, only love, acceptance, and warmth. Her mother's voice echoed softly in her mind, almost like a melody she hadn't heard in years. "Child, color fades, but kindness shines forever. People forget, but God never does." Alia held on to those words, letting them wrap around her like a protective shawl. They reminded her that true beauty isn't measured by someone else's eyes, and that the love and strength within her could never be diminished by the cruelty or blindness of another. She remembered how her mother had always told her to stand tall, to value herself, and to shine even when the world tried to dim her light. In that quiet moment, Alia felt a spark ignite deep inside her chest. For the first time in months, she realized that the love she had sought externally could be found within herself. She understood that her worth, her strength, and her beauty had always been hers, untouched by his judgments, unaffected by his inability to see her. And as the memory faded, leaving her alone in the moonlit room, she smiled softly, a flicker of hope and determination glimmering in her eyes. Morning light spilled gently across her room, soft and golden, like a promise of a new beginning. Alia stretched her arms, feeling the tension of months of doubt and pain slowly unwind from her shoulders. She moved deliberately, with a newfound purpose, opening the curtains wide and letting the sunlight pour in, bathing her in warmth that felt like a long-awaited embrace. Today, she decided, she would no longer shrink herself for anyone's comfort. She chose her favorite black dress, elegant, simple, and empowering. She tied her hair neatly, applied kajal to her eyes, and stood before the mirror. For the first time, she did not search for validation. She did not look for signs that she was enough for someone else. Instead, she looked at herself with quiet pride, seeing the woman she had always been, the strength she had quietly carried all along. She whispered softly to her reflection, "I am the light you refuse to see, but I will not fade anymore." A smile slowly curved her lips, not the fragile, forced smile she had given him for years, but a real, radiant smile born from recognition of her own worth. She stepped away from the mirror, feeling lighter, freer, and stronger than she had in a long time. For the first time, Alia felt that sense of power, the understanding that she could live fully, love fully, and shine fully, without needing permission from anyone else. The house, once filled with shadows of doubt and hurt, now seemed brighter, filled with the promise of her own strength. Today was not just another day. Today marked the beginning of a life reclaimed, a self rediscovered, and a heart finally free. Weeks passed. Or perhaps months, time had blurred, but Alia's heart had never felt so clear. She now walked through her life with a quiet strength, a confidence that radiated from her every gesture. Gone were the nights of self-doubt, the shadows of someone else's cruel judgments. She had learned that her value had never depended on him or anyone else. Her black skin, once a source of his disdain, had become a banner of her power, her resilience, her beauty. One sunny afternoon, Alia stepped onto a stage at a local women's empowerment event. Faces of women of all ages turned toward her, curious, eager, seeking inspiration. She spoke with a calm intensity, her voice steady yet full of emotion, recounting the journey she had endured, the nights of silence, the tears, the self-questioning, and the eventual awakening to her own worth. She shared her story not as a tale of victimhood, but as a testament to the strength that lies within anyone who has been made to feel less for simply being themselves. In the audience, Arslan sat quietly in the back, his eyes wide with regret. He had once taken her for granted, judged her, diminished her. But Alia didn't look at him. She no longer needed his validation, his approval, or even his recognition. She was her own light now, bright, unshakable, and undeniable. Her words echoed through the room. Sometimes, the greatest beauty lies hidden behind the scars people gave you. But your strength, your courage, your light, they can never be taken from you. Stand tall. Shine bright. Love yourself always. As she spoke, she looked out at the faces before her, some tearful, some smiling, some nodding in quiet affirmation, and felt a deep, unshakable peace. She had transformed, not through revenge, not through proving him wrong, but by embracing herself fully. Every inch of her, every curve, every shade of her skin, every word she had once silenced, all of it now radiated power. Alia stepped off the stage later, her chest lifted, her head high. The sun kissed her skin, and for the first time, she felt truly seen, not by him, not by anyone else, but by herself. Her reflection no longer held pain or doubt. It held strength, pride, and freedom. Voiceover/final narration. Black isn't ugly. Strength isn't loud. Beauty isn't defined by someone else's eyes. And love, real love, starts with the one person who should never doubt you, yourself. As the camera slowly pulled away, Alia walked through the sunlight, confident, radiant, unstoppable, a living reminder that the darkest trials can birth the brightest light, and that nothing, not even rejection or cruelty, can diminish the fire within. Fade out with soft, inspiring music.